2 weeks out.
I've been involved in politics now for 30 years, most of my adult life. And so at this point, I'm not surprised by much and certainly not shocked by much. The level of cynicism, though, coming this morning from the Wall Street Journal editorial page in light of comments that Donald Trump has been making really is shocking. John Meacham, I'm going to go to you, and then we'll go through all the details. But the Journal's editorial the day after Donald Trump said that Democrats allied against him are, quote, the enemy from within, on a day after Donald Trump said that the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol was, quote, a beautiful thing, after he said that Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff were, quote, bad people who threatened democracy and were the enemy within. And then Howie Kurtz said, well, will you at least say you're not going to punish or prosecute your political opponents? Trump replied, excuse me? That's what they're doing to me. In a separate Fox News interview on October 13th, Trump said that his foes, quote, could very easily be handled by the National Guard, if really necessary, by the military. He repeated the line about the enemy within days later during a Fox News town hall event. You call Americans who don't support you, quote, the enemy within. And so this morning, I woke up expecting, because there are times that the Wall Street Journal editorial page checks Mr. Trump at his worst instincts. Instead, they talk about the Democrats' fascism meme and say that basically Democrats are the real National Socialists and that what they've done is far worse than anything Donald Trump has done. Joe Biden's loan forgiveness, stop me if you've heard this before, was more law-breaking than anything that Donald Trump has ever done. And in this entire editorial, they failed to mention one time January the 6th. Instead, saying the worst thing that Donald Trump has ever done was when he tried to use money to build a wall that wasn't approved by Congress. I really, again, very rarely am I left without adequate words to explain what's going on here. But I was shocked enough yesterday that Donald Trump continued calling Democrats, quote, the enemy within, which, of course, is a precursor to him getting elected, calling them enemy combatants and being able to lock them up and have military tribunals. And they will dismiss this perhaps, but they've never heard language like this before. And Republicans have been saying all week, oh, no, he doesn't mean that. He's talking about illegal immigrants. And Donald Trump keeps saying, no, I'm not talking about illegal immigrants. I'm talking about Democrats being, quote, the enemy within. Let me say that again. And tell me if you've heard this before by a major party candidate, calling his political opponents, quote, the enemy within. Worse than Putin, worse than Xi, who he says may not be our enemies, worse than Kim Jong-un.
I'm
Domestic
not sure which is
political rivals, the enemy within. And they're calling this a meme, which I don't know, John. I just don't know where that puts us. I really don't know where this puts us as a country, because I've never heard any politician call his opponents the enemy within and say he's going after them.
We haven't been to this particular place in America before, and I don't often say that. It worries me to say that, but if we don't have that recognition, if we don't have, and this is going to sound grand, but if we don't have the moral and imaginative ability and capacity to recognize what is in front of our eyes and what we can hear with our ears, then the central thesis of America, the American Republic, if you want to go back to George Washington's farewell address, was that this republic cannot exist without the moral and religious principle of a people. And leave out the, if you want to, leave out the religious part for a minute, and let's just talk about the moral part. And it's not a sermon, it's not a homily, it's not a Sunday school lesson. It's moral in the sense of, I care about how things are not just for me, but for other people. It's a pretty baseline thing, right? I'm not even saying you have to make it the most important thing, but if you let the will to power, an innate human drama to try to dominate other people, which is an absolutely fundamental human impulse. The point of the United States was that we were going to manage that impulse. We were actually going to make out of many one. And, you know, Joe, you and I have talked about this before. The Wall Street Journal editorial page is enormously influential among people who think of themselves, and usually are, very accomplished, very often economically successful, conservative Americans. And you and I have joked in the past, you could write, for a lot of people we know, you could put your grocery list in Wall Street Journal font, and they would go, you know, this is really profound. I think Edmund Burke said this about going to the dry cleaners. You know, it has that kind of capacity, that kind of reach. And what worries me to death nearly is either the kinds of Republicans that we know and grew up with either really believe this, they really believe that there's kind of a both sides thing, which is bad enough. And what's even a little worse is they don't really believe it. But because they are not sufficiently troubled by what the former president represents, they're looking for anything they can tell themselves to justify doing something that I think in their hearts they know is wrong.
Yeah. Well, they do. And again, the comparisons, and you've heard it, and I've heard it, people saying, well, January 6th was really not much. And my gosh, did you see what Joe Biden tried to do?
It's insane.
By forgiving student loan debt, which of course
he wants to forgive this,
which of course was turned over, parts of it, by the United States Supreme Court, and Joe Biden didn't have his people attack the Capitol. Again, this right here, not even mentioned in today's quote fascist meme editorial, but yesterday again, the enemy within, the enemy within, the enemy within. We keep hearing it. And who is the left-wing freak, the left-wing radical the Wall Street Journal points to as being the most extreme in her hyperbole? One, Anne Applebaum, who devoted her early life to fighting against the Soviet Union, whose entire life has been dedicated to calling out Soviet Union's evils. When people on the left try to whitewash their evils in the 40s and 50s and beyond. The same Anne Applebaum who continues to try to talk about the challenge of totalitarianism and authoritarianism for the Wall Street Journal editorial. She's the radical leftist. See, doesn't that tell you something? Me, somebody who's far more conservative than Donald Trump, are 99% of the Republicans in Congress. Conservative, by the way, we used to talk about being conservative, like balancing budgets, pushing back against Reagan, pushing back against Russian aggression like Reagan did, like Reagan conservatives, far more conservative than anybody in Congress that I've seen over the past 8 years, far more conservative on those basic structures of what we grew up knowing conservatism is. And Ann Applebaum is the person here called out as being the radical leftist.
And
It's revealing, isn't it? And here, somebody with a 95% conservative lifetime record in Congress. We're the leftists. We're the, quote, sick puppies, which Donald Trump said yesterday when another Fox News interviewer said, Joe Scarborough said that you once said that you were going, that your people said that they were going to go after Morning Joe. And instead of just playing the tape of Kash Patel saying that, and Steve Bannon saying that, giving him that evidence, again, it's smoke and mirrors. So, again, I'm concerned about this because it's shameful and it doesn't call out authoritarian language, Mika, but make no mistake, the pace is quickening, and there is a reason he is saying every day, Democrats are the enemy within. Democrats are the enemy within. Pelosi and Schiff and all of these people. This is, they know. Everybody knows.
The first time
this is
around,
unprecedented.
The first time around, it was the abortion meme, and we'll get to that, how that actually parallels perfectly. Ann Applebaum has a piece coming out in The Atlantic this week. We're going to have her on later this week, which will be good. And I want to make that parallel in just a moment and go to Claire. But first, let's show you the latest comments. Here's former President Donald Trump standing by his claim that certain Democrats are enemies from within, again, specifically attacking Congressman Adam Schiff and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Take a look at what he had to say on Fox News yesterday and later during a podcast interview.
The outside people, the so-called enemies, if they're enemies, and they might not be enemies, if you have a smart president, they can be handled. But when you have people investigating my campaign, when you have people, you know, they spied on my campaign now. You understand that. That's been proven. But they spy on your campaign. The Russia hoax was all made up, and now it's acknowledged that it was made up. All of these different things. You have the 51 different agents saying it was from Russia, and now they all say it wasn't from Russia. Okay, so we were lying. Many other things, many. I could go order. You just don't have enough time. But what they've done is so terrible. Who's ever heard of anything like this? Adam Shifty Schiff, he's a crooked guy. He's a crooked politician, 100%. And he's going to be a senator now. Can you believe it?
But again, he's a political opponent of yours.
He's not
an enemy.
No, he's a. Well, of course, he's an enemy. He's an enemy. These are bad people. We have a lot of bad people. But when you look at Shifty Schiff and some of the others, yeah, they are, to me, the enemy from within. I think Nancy Pelosi is an enemy from within. She lied. She was supposed to protect the Capitol. If we have to protect our country, and maybe we should let the other side, I don't even call them the enemy. I think we have more of an enemy from within than we do from outside. You know, if you have a smart president, they talk about China and Russia and everything else. If you have a smart president, they're not going to be the problem. We have a bigger problem from within, and they hate it. I noticed today they were saying, he said the enemy from within. Of course, it's Adam Schiff. These are bad people. These are sick people and bad people